Okay, welcome to this landscape oil painting time lapse, and in this video I will start out and show you how I do landscape painting, figure landscape painting. As you can see, I start out on a toned canvas. I tone the canvas with raw umber over gesso, basically acrylic gesso, then I do use the turpentine, or terpentine as it's called in Norway, and I just do a wash with raw umber, and I get this tone. Actually, the raw umber I use is from Vikshåland, but I do my paintings with Old Holland paint. As you can see, I start with the light areas and just start building out, and I use the brush here basically as a drawing tool to get in some points and stuff like that. So, and then boom, here we have another segment, and as you can see, I'm using a photo that I took of her in actually my home Iceland, Karmøy, one evening. It is kind of a quite cold. It's a cold evening. It was quite cold actually, and you can see that there was cold evening light. Sometimes the light is way more warmer, but this was actually a cold evening. So it is also straight up a greater challenge for me to paint this cold, because when you have more warmth in the landscapes you paint, you have basically more sculptural. The warm light is basically sculpting the landscape more. The cold light is basically flattening it more out. Maybe that has to do something with how the eyes are experiencing colors and nuances, but also if you have a low sunlight, it will hit some parts and give this more 3D experience of the landscape. Of course, everything is 3D, but you know. And you can see I start with the figure here, because it's very important for me to get the figure quite right in when it comes to size compared to the rest of the things in the painting, and that is why I use more time on getting that right. And yeah, here you can see, and then I start to fill in the rest of the landscape, and I do basically the same thing. I just look at the photo that I use, and I just put in the different objects and fill in. It is quite a daunting process, and to get it right, it's also difficult. I actually love the fact that things are a little bit difficult. I don't know what it is with me, but I really do love a challenge, and the bigger the challenge, the more I get basically drawn into it. But I also, of course, the bigger the challenge, the bigger the stress. So you have to tweak both your use of time and everything you do to be able to do these types of paintings. As you can see, I do use absolutely no tracing. I use no what do you call it, a projector or any other tools. I just use my eyes, and I try to get in the different objects as good as I can. You know, people say that my paintings kind of look like photographs. Yeah, I mean, when I paint from a photo, of course they will look a little bit like a photograph, but I do not slavishly, I try to get the main things in, but I'm not a photorealist. I'm not trying to make a photorealistic copy of a photograph. I really do love textures, and I love building basically paint in a physical way, so you get a relief type of feel to it. You know, the old reliefs you see in Roman culture, and you see reliefs in old churches and these things. It's basically the same process. You have this rock and you start kind of building out or taking away rock or whatever you are working with, and you basically build the motif into the canvas. When it comes into the stone, of course, when it comes to this, it is basically going both ways. I have to use the colors and the depth to create this feeling of going into the painting, and then I have to get certain objects to come out of it. I need to build thick colors so that I get this very real 3D expression in my painting. And of course, if you're doing photorealism, you wouldn't work that way. You try to keep things down at basically the same level, and you have to control way more the paint you put in and stuff like that. I just like to pour it in there and just push the limits more and more. So that is how I really like it. There are some assholes making some noise in the background here outside my studio, of course. Having really fun. It's quite disturbing, but I hope they leave soon. Here you can actually see that I have built a whole painting or a whole sketch, and now I start with the real work. Now I start to build all the small things and the shadows and building the clouds and all that. And I have been asked many times how I use the brushes and the brushwork to make this work. And as I've been talking about many times in my long videos, is that you have to think about the painting as a piece of music that you're going to play on a piano. To make this music dynamic and not flat, you have to learn how to use your touch and your intuition to push the keyboard in such a way that it becomes diverse. You're still playing the notes, but you're playing them with a diverse intuition in a way. So you get this. That is why every time you hear a piece of music, like it can be Beethoven or Mozart or Satie or whatever, and you hear different pianists playing the music, there's always a small difference in, maybe a big difference, but also a small difference in the way they approach it, on the pressures they put onto it. Now, when it comes to also you have to think directions when you paint. What kind of direction does this cloud go in? What direction do I do this brushwork to create this feel to the hair or feel to anything? How am I going to use the brush to keep it down? And in this thing, which is quite difficult because I really had problems mixing the blue that you see in the painting, no, in the photo. For some reason, the difference between a print and colors in real life are very different. And a printer can print colors that you really have a hard time repeating with ordinary oil paint. And there's many reasons to that. You know, print is very flat. It is based on different colors and nuance, but a painting is a physical thing that has some texture in it, no matter how flat you paint. So yeah, as you can see here, I am trying to putting in shadows, everything. Try to go over it again and again and again. I also try to get the same colors in different nuances, in the different shadows and in lights. You see it's kind of greenish, and then you have the violet, yellow greenish, then you have violet, then you have blue, and in the highlights there will of course be more orange or reddish and stuff like that to keep, to make it yeah. I actually explain all these things in the main video, the main lesson. The lesson is also partitioned into different segments or chapters, and you find hyperlinks or chapters in description, so you can actually jump back and forth to segments like this, and you can find an explanation for most things if you bother to watch my full videos. Now, people are saying to me that I'm making my videos are too long and stuff like that, and yeah, they may be too long, but the process of learning to paint is actually a long process. So if you don't have the stamina to watch a video that lasts for like 3 or 2 or 6 or even 10 hours, if you don't have the stamina and you want a quick fix, I don't think you will ever actually learn to paint, because it's all about being willing to go the mile. You know, here I put on retouche vernis before next layer, and the reason I do that is that I can then see the different tones better. And here I actually use a glaze that I mix with my medium, which is 70% turpentine and 30% linseed oil. And when I have done that glaze, I just start to, this now gets sucked into the retouche vernis that I put on first, so it gives me a possibility to it becomes a little bit sticky. So instead of actually mixing medium into the colors on the palette, I basically get the medium into the new colors I put on through this glaze, and also some new colors. The glaze I usually use is Kraplak or alizarin crimson, and probably sometimes I actually use also cobalt blue, and I can use, but it's usually French ultramarine, maybe Dunker, maybe light, maybe some other. But you can actually glaze any clean color over a surface, and you will get a very sweet, nice complementary contrast when you do that. Say that you put some yellow over some blue, and you will get a green, kind of green shine to it, because the blue underneath it will shine through the new yellow glaze, and then you get a green color. And you can do the same thing with putting more red over green maybe, and you get maybe even a tertiary, third contrast. You can do so many things with glazing that it's limitless. But I usually just use this French ultramarine and Kraplak crimson, alizarin crimson, and but in the end I might do micro glazing, and then I maybe go in small places and just glaze some more, and then I put some more color over. Also, the glaze fall into the textures and into the brushwork that you did earlier. So you also get to see the brushwork better. As you can see here, I glaze down there, then I scrape it away, and then I start painting over that again, or I use you see a knife, and then I just scrape it away and get the textures back and stuff like that. As you can see in this painting, the time-consuming thing is that you start out with quite a rough sketch, but then you just start adding more detail, and it takes longer and longer and longer and longer time to do it. So yeah, you should actually, when you see this video, you see some flash with some scripture, and that is actually the chapters I did in the main file. So I thought it was actually disappear here, because this video is originally, I think it's like 6 hours long, 6.5 hour long, and I thought that would actually disappear, but I can see them. Anyway, here we see do more glaze. Then I also, I feel it's too much oil when I glazed, I can use some paper and take away some of the glaze. Here you can see I glazed, and now I work on top of that again. So I get kind of a free lunch, because you have some of the nuances, and you can just do some brushwork and create the illusion of some small waves or whatever. So it's a very effective way to create a dynamic painted surface. So I actually, when I paint big like this, I like to put in maybe 10 hours in straight up, and maybe get over a lot of the surface every time, and then I paint wet in wet, so I get the painting and the colors to more glide together, and of course be more natural. So that is the way I think and do it. Maybe there will be a little bit more close-ups soon, so you can actually get closer to what I'm doing when I'm painting. I hope you find this interesting, because it also takes me a little while to make these videos. It takes an effort, and if you show appreciation for them, I will feel even more making more of them, so you can learn. Painting is basically about one thing, and that is to paint and to fail. The way I learn to paint, if you think I actually have learned to paint, which I'm not really sure about myself many times, is basically by trying and failing. And that is the way I learn. It has to do with my personality structure and stuff. I'm not very good at sitting silently on a school bench and taking dry knowledge. I like to be more active and engaging with the problems, and learn basically by failing and adjusting as I do. So, but if you're looking for more stringent or more way to do stuff, maybe I'm not the right artist to look at. Maybe you should go to a more academic place to find your things, find your knowledge. There are artists out there that are working maybe with just 1 or 2 layers, and they get a good illusion of a painting. I think a painting needs time, overpaints, mistakes, and everything in between to become a good painting. That's what I see in Rembrandt, and that's what I see in the great masters. As you can see underneath her cheek there, the hair there, how thick the colors are, and how thin I'm trying to keep the cheek and keep the other things. So basically I build a relief around there, and in the end it got a very nice effect. I was struggling so much with the teeth and the mouth and everything, because of this was actually laying all the way back in darkness, and it kept on tricking my brain, and it was really exhausting finishing this painting, because you, as I said in the beginning, usually I do paintings that has more sculptural presence. So, and I think I have basically a sculptor in me. So yeah, I really had to put all my skill and all my willpower into getting this to be finished. It also was a commission work, which makes it even worse, because when you do a commission, you basically have more responsibility, toward personal responsibility towards the person who are paying you to paint it, and that makes it even harder, because you know you have, I will call it a pathological bad self-esteem, and I'm never ever able to be totally content with anything I do, and that is in the whole spectrum of my life. I'm never good enough. My ambitions are sky high, both for my health, for my body. I'm quite a vain person, actually. I like to take care of myself. In this video I look horribly fat, actually, so that is what I think when I see my own video. God, I look so fat, and oh man, I lost more hair, and oh, I'm getting old, stuff like that, you know. I see myself paint. I have finally learned to accept my own voice. I used to hate my own voice. I couldn't even put on one of my own videos because I just got exhausted by my own voice. And maybe you are doing the same. I don't know, but so be it. It is my voice. There is nothing I can do with that. It was what I was born with, so I just have to do the best out of that. Now we're back to the face, and I'm doing some more detail. You know, I'm not sure if I actually reached the maximum. Also, there's one thing, you know, in reality, when you see the painting, there are way more neons in the blue and in the colors than the camera can actually capture, which is also a problem with my paintings. An exhausting problem. I can't really seem to get the camera to catch my true colors. And yeah, and people say that who buy my paintings too, when they haven't seen them and they get them home or something, portrait or whatever, they get really stunned by the difference between photo and my paintings in real life, which is two very different things. Also, much of the sculptural things get lost when you look at it at the photo. And there are people who tell me that my paintings feels like they are moving and they are alive. It's like they are, and that I think is because I use actively the colors of nature, you know, the color circle, and I blend colors the way that nature would, you know, how light is actually blended together in the universe by the elements and light and all that. So that is how I think when I'm painting. I use Goethe's color circle, and I also have a love for Delacroix, which was a master of color, and also of course the impressionists, which used these color theories actively when they created these beautiful paintings, which just beams of color and light. Rembrandt actually understood these things long before for them, and I will almost say that Rembrandt was basically one of the first impressionists. So yeah, they say, of course, Vincent van Gogh was it, but personally, I think you can go further back than that. You can go to Turner, you can go to Rembrandt, you can go to even Vermeer, which is very important to look at when you are gonna learn painting and glazing and these things. Because if you look at Vermeer's paintings, the subtleness of his glazing and the almost like his paintings, some places are almost like watercolor. You see how the paint and the colors are just gliding into another, almost like oil on water, you know, it's just droplets and then you just melt together. It's really beautiful. So, and this is what you have to look for when you go to a museum. Look at the paint. That's where you find the painter in the textures, in the brushwork and stuff. That's where you find. You see here I'm talking actually in this video. I'm talking about what I'm doing. And that is why you should go and see the main file, which you also will see the file right after this video in end screen, and also find it in description. So yeah. As you can see here, I just try to, what I'm doing now is pushing, as you see around the body there. I was kind of just pushing the sculptural reality of it, just figure out, okay, if I put it on some more there and some more there, what happens? Sometimes I overdo it so it dies, so I have to take away stuff, because just more white isn't necessarily white, you know, it's not necessarily more light. White doesn't mean necessarily more sense of light. Of course it means more light if you paint a room white, but if you're gonna make a contrast in a painting, just pouring in more and more white won't do the trick. You also have the contrast, you have to have all the different colors in it. Like in the white areas, in the clouds, I will actually add some warmer colors, and in the shadows I will use like blue and maybe mix together the colors that are actually in the white, just that I'm not adding any white, so I get a shadow color to the color in the cloud. And I also use, of course, directions, different directions with brushwork, different pressures, so I can actually add a few. If I paint wet in wet, I can actually, with just the pressure on the brush, I can add several layers of brushwork over each other, and they all have different colors, clean colors inside the brushwork. So you can actually see closer here. So they basically start to come alive both on a micro level and on a higher level. So see here, I just put in more spots. Yeah. It's back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. It's basically a never-ending story. So that my head come in between there, but you see what I mean. If you really want to, as I say, if you really want to see this get something real out of this, you have to go to the main file. So yeah, see here, boom, 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 and I just kind of paint all over the place. So yeah, and we are reaching the end soon of this. And then I will basically show you some of the, I have some photos here, so I'm going to show you some of the details. Oops. So you see how I just tweaks everything more and more, try to just kind of, yeah, you see some photos of all the textures, and yeah, that's the end of the video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and check out my Patreon, and if you want to support me with $1 or $5, you can check out my Patreon. Find link in description and link on my channel. And with this, I beg you a fine farewell. Okay, thanks for watching this time lapse. Hope you enjoyed it, learned something from it. You can support my channel by becoming a patron or by sharing it on social media. Give a thumbs up, leave a comment, and for heaven's sake, put the notification bell on. My other channel was hacked, so I'm rebuilding. So please do me that favor. As you can see here, it's painted. And yeah, maybe it's interesting for you. You can see how I built the clouds and how I built this whole thing. You will also find a full painting tutorial on my channel. There will be a link up here, probably, after I'm stop talking. And a full playlist, subscribe, and my other channel will probably be there. So, with this, I hope you enjoyed. Stay cool, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. Thanks for watching.